Coming right up, Straight Talk with Art Levine. Our guest tonight, persuasion expert Chris St. Hilaire.
Opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Charter Communications nor its sponsors. We recognize our obligation to present opposing points of view by responsible spokespersons. For information, please contact the director of program.
She stands in the face of evil and will not lose hope or faith. America, the land of freedom, is still the home of the brave. So raise the banner, call Old Glory. Let us join our fellow man. History will write the story. America will always stand.
Straight Talk is brought to you in part by Southern California Edison. For over 100 years, life powered by Edison. The Press Telegram, your local news leader for over 100 years. And Long Beach Magazine. Coastal Living, City Style.
Join us for tonight's edition of Straight Talk. And now your host, Art Levine.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. We have a great show for you tonight. Our guest for the entire show is our friend Chris St. Hilaire, who is the president, CEO of Jury Impact. Chris, welcome back to Straight Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Chris is an expert in the art of persuasion. We'll be going into detail later in the show about some of the techniques, but he's the head of this company called Jury Impact that counsels large law firms that are at trial as to how to best present their case to the jury. And Chris, you would think that lawyers, being for the most part bright people, would know how to do that, but apparently they need some help.
You know, they suffer what anyone in any industry who's developed an expertise suffers from, which is they know too much about their subject. And so after 5 years of depositions and learning the ins and outs of a case, you've got 2 weeks or maybe 1 week to deliver a story to 12 people who couldn't get out of jury duty. And so your ability to bring it back to the basics, to talk about issues that they'll be interested in understanding, to not lose their attention by going into too much detail on any one issue is really the difference between your success and your failure.
So you urge them to simplify their case, tell a story, get down to basics, and what else?
Well, what happens is too often when you know so much about an issue, you know, in government, people speak in too many acronyms, engineers. If you've ever worked with a computer technician, you'll find they start going into gigabytes and hard drives, and all you want to do is press the button and turn it on so you can send out your email. And juries many times don't have the context behind whatever issue an attorney needs to persuade on. And so building that context, telling that story in language that that resonates to them, that talks to their predispositions and their worldviews, and then develops a context in which they can understand the case more broadly, really is going to swing the case in your direction more often than not.
And I know these techniques work because you're hired by some of the largest law firms in America on important cases where a lot of money's involved to get that advice, and your batting average and success ratio is pretty good.
Well, we're in the high 90s. But we don't want to take all the credit. We work with some pretty gifted attorneys, and really a bulk of the credit should go to them. But you know, everyone from the Mayo Clinic to Walmart to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim have used us in the past, and have been pleased with the results.
And this leads to the broader field of persuasion, because this is one application of persuasion. But and by the way, Chris just came out with a new book Let me hold it up. 27 Powers of Persuasion, Simple Strategies to Seduce Audiences and Win Allies. And I've read part of it, and it is quite compelling, I must say. But let's talk about persuasion generally. Now, to many, persuasion is a dirty word. It smacks of techniques and gimmicks. But speak to the concept of persuasion.
Well, I did focus groups around the country on persuasion as I was writing the book, and what I found is it conjures images of snake oil salesmen, of manipulation, of manipulating the truth. And really, that's not what persuasion is. Persuasion in its purest form is the creation of consensus from either conflict or no idea at all. And so there are attributes of persuasion. There are common themes within persuasion and tactics that you can use every day, because when you think about it, every aspect of your life involves persuasion, whether you're trying to raise money for the PTA, whether you're trying to get your spouse to go to the restaurant you want, or your child to clean the room, or you're running a major corporation and running for political office trying to convince 40 million, 38 million people, like in the state of California. There's similar themes, similar characteristics, and similar tactics to persuasion that you can employ to make yourself more successful.
Wow. Persuasion is everywhere.
It's everywhere, all the time, in everything that we do.
And you found that successful leaders, whether it's in corporations or in the political realm, they either instinctively know or have learned this art of persuasion.
I relate it to Anna Karenina, the famous novel where her opening sentence is, "All happy families are alike, but each unhappy family is unhappy in its own special way." Good persuaders share some common characteristics, while people that aren't persuasive can make thousands and thousands of different mistakes. But part of persuasion is getting your idea heard. And so what I've tried to develop in this book is, one, a context to persuade, and then also specific tactics to get your idea heard more effectively.
And you studied under a Buddhist religious leader that had an impact on you and your thinking.
There's a Buddhist backdrop to all of the themes. And when you think about persuasion, I think one of the last philosophies people would relate it to is Buddhism. But if you think about persuasion in the context of resolving conflict and creating consensus, then a Buddhist backdrop fits absolutely perfectly within that context.
And the Buddhist religion believes in a oneness and a holistic for everyone, and that certainly is in line with coming to consensus.
Well, that's exactly right. And within each of us, there's an ego, and there's a spirit, and the spirit saying we're alike. We have things in common, we share similar concerns, and it has an innate longing to be unified. And then there's the ego in each of us that says, no, you're a little smarter than that person, you're better. Drive a nicer car, have more girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever the case may be. And it tries to separate and differentiate and control. And understanding that context and utilizing it to the benefit of consensus will create a leader, and can create a leader in each of us.
Fantastic. We'll be back with more of this incredible conversation after these messages. Stay with us.
Electricity is different from any other product we use. We can't store it. We must use it wisely, but can't do without it completely. And there's no substitute for this special form of energy that brings us light, comfort, and progress. That's why California needs new standards that can keep utilities strong, guard against another power crisis, and protect consumers from the kind of shortages that often affect other commodities. Because electricity is different.
Getting kids to care about economics is easier than you think. You just need to find a connection. Like how the Port of Long Beach supports 1 in 8 jobs in our city alone, and how the Port's commitment to going green is creating even more new jobs. So the Port of Long Beach? Cool. My no texting in class policy? Not so cool.
The Port of Long Beach, investing in jobs, investing in you.